Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew Caswell, and my paper is on psychological trauma caused by neglectful and weaponized policy. I apologize if my video doesn't show up in this. I'm having to re-record this last second, and it may not work right. Psychological trauma caused by neglectful and weaponized policies. My thesis is that policies such as the separation policy have become weaponized and have violated the rights of children and their parents. These violations have led to undue stress and trauma for both parents and children, which has been proven to lead to toxic stress, which further leads to developmental problems. These policies are equivalent to torture, which violate the United Nations policies in regard to the Declaration of Human Rights. These kinds of policies, they're dangerous, they're inhumane, and they're purposely harmful. These policies should not be allowed to be put in place and should not be allowed to be weaponized as nationalism, as Freddie Perlman described. The Trump family separation policy, although it lasted for less than 3 months officially, the official count was 2,654 children separated. 1,033 of them were under the age of 10, 1,621 of them over the age of 10. 7 months after the family separation policy was ordered to end immediately, U.S. District Court Judge Dana Sabraw in January of 2020 issued guidelines that did not limit the Trump family separation policy. This essentially allows immigration officials to make the decision of separating families. In the family separation policy, there was a zero tolerance practice. The unofficial numbers that have come in from different sources say that by June of 2018, 2,300 children had been separated. 100 children were under the age of 4. Amnesty International reported in April 19, 2008, that between that point and August 5th, 6,022 family units had been separated. March 2019 to May 2019, 634 children were reported separated. Estimating total numbers of children separated will most likely remain always unknown, but most estimate put these numbers north of 5,510 children. Some will never be reunited with their families. When we look at this family separation policy, policy zero tolerance, a couple of dates that stuck out in here that I thought were important started with June 2017 when the Houston Chronicle reported 22 cases of separation. This was going on as an experiment on the El Paso, Texas border. It was going on to see how it would play out a year later if it was implemented. In October 2017, the New York Times reported 700 children had been separated from their parents, and 100 of them were under the age of 4. By January of 2018, the American Academy of Pediatrics had sent a letter to the Trump administration and the director of the Homeland Security Office of Kristen Nielsen, warning them of toxic stress that children could suffer and experience because of these separation policies. They were told that toxic stress could lead to PTSD, depression, and suicide. In January 2018, 100 other experts, right about a week after the AAP sent their letters in, sent their own in. They were social workers, developmental experts, justice experts, and they sent letters in urging for the policy to never go into effect. However, on April 6, 2018, Attorney General Jeff Sessions issued the zero tolerance policy, stating that all parents crossing the border, whether illegal or illegally, were to be separated from their children. April 11th, 2018, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristen Nielsen denies in front of Congress that there is a zero tolerance policy enacted. June 9th, 2018, Washington Post reports that a Honduran man suffers a nervous breakdown in a Texas jail and hung himself. And I include that because I want this to remain centered in the fact that these are people, and this all revolves around people, not just numbers. June 17th, 2018, tours with advocates, human rights advocates, journalists, and politicians tour the warehouses where children are being housed in Texas. They come out reporting the sounds of foil blankets and the sights of traumatized children as being the two things that stuck out the most to them. June 27, 2018, a judge orders an issue ending the separation policy and that all separated children must be reunited. July 5th, 2018, the New York Times reports that records have been destroyed, most likely resulting in many children never being reunited with their family. The Department of Homeland Security officials later confirmed that these records had been destroyed. When we look at the conditions of the prison or jails that these children are basically being held in, we see that children live and sleep in empty big box stores that have been converted with cages that separate groups of children by ages. Foil blankets are often the only object given to children. There are no toys, or educational resources, nothing in the way of psychological care provided for the most part in these facilities. Some children have been sent to live in foster care homes or foster care facilities, and we know that abuse was rampant in the facilities as well in the foster care systems. This next slide is the psychological trauma, and this talks about the toxic stress that these weaponized policies can basically create. And toxic stress is a prolonged exposure to fear and serious stress without the buffer of stability of responsive relationships. And those would be family, schools, things that give these children an outlet. The harm leads to the developmental issues. These can be short and long-term health problems. We also see chronic conditions such as PTSD, depression, and heart disease that become prevalent in children. The photo of the little girl shown in the slide is from 1948 and was taken by David Seymour. This was first published in the Life magazine. The image was under the caption, "Children's wounds are not all outward. Those made in the mind by years of sorrow will take years to heal." UNICEF sent Seymour to Warsaw, Poland, to a school to take pictures and research children that had suffered traumatic stress during the war following World War II. The little girl is Teresa Andwintowska, and she was in a classroom and the students were being told to draw a picture of home. This little girl could only remember chaos and pain. When Teresa was 4 years old, her grandmother was murdered in front of her and her family home was destroyed in Poland, and her and her sister spent the next couple of years just struggling to survive. The psychological trauma that you see essentially came out of weaponized policies. Negligent policies in the United States have been put forth to harm people regardless of their citizenship. Jason De Leon wrote in The Land of the Open Graves how Operation Blockade and Prevention through Deterrence were policies that were strategically exploited as a weapon in the war on immigration. The U.S. government has used neglectful and weaponized policies to exert harm on people, particularly children, going back hundreds of years. In slavery, we had the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793 and 1800, the Slave Trade Act of 1794, 1800, and the Three-Fifths Compromise of 1786. Children were separated from families, sold off as if they were property, all under policies that had been weaponized, essentially. We know that this also happened to the Native American community with the General Allotment Act of 1887, and the Dawes Act of 1887. And these were essentially assimilation policies that removed Native Americans from their lands and placed the children in the custody of the federal government for assimilation training. We also have seen this recently within the last 100 years, where Japanese Americans, under Executive Order 9066, following the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the government authorized the military to remove all Japanese American citizens from their homes and force them into internment camps. These types of negligent policies, such as the family separation policy, have very dangerous outcomes and lead to psychological trauma that children suffer from. Weaponizing them is wrong. Thank you.